Lexington. It's University of Kentucky basketball. UK Wildcat basketball is brought to you by Ashland Oil Incorporated and your local Ford dealer.
And by some of this area's most prominent.
In the history of college basketball, the names Kentucky and Kansas stand 1-2 in number of total victories. And those two schools will meet here tonight at Rupp Arena. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Rupp Arena. I'm Randy Waters. Along with me is Denny Tracy. And while it's fun to reflect upon the storied past of both these schools, it's equal amount of fun to look at the talent that's here in the present. When we talk about Kansas, a young man named Darnell Valentine is a guy you've got to mention.
In fact, the Kentucky coaching staff thinks so much of Valentine that they say Kansas's offensive efficiency is cutting just about half when he goes out of the ball game. So, of course, they'd like to get him out. Valentine is a penetrating guard who likes to create the offense. And so if Kentucky does a good job of getting position and taking some charges, maybe they can get him out and affect the outcome of the game, Randy.
On the other hand, it might be hard for Kansas to determine who they want to key on. Kentucky has an incredible number of people averaging in double figures.
8 of them right now. Everybody has done the job, but this is the moment of truth tonight. We'll see just how much Kentucky can get it together against a team that does everything well. Actually, Kansas does about the same things that LaSalle and West Texas have done offensively. They just do it a lot better, Randy, out on the break.
A gentleman that knows what this Kansas-Kentucky rivalry is all about is Kentucky Athletic Director Cliff Hagan. It also happens to be his birthday. Happy birthday to you, Cliff.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep that a secret.
Okay, I'll let it out of the bag. At any rate, a member of the Naismith Hall of Fame, and if anyone can appreciate the Kentucky-Kansas tradition, I guess it is you. Is this a very special meeting to you?
Well, it really is, because, you know, Coach Rupp played at Kansas, from Kansas, and, you know, the man that invented basketball coached it at Kansas and was there while Adolph was there. And, you know, the tradition goes back for years and years, and we try to keep schools like Kansas on our schedule. And that's some reason we don't play some other schools, because we have these long-standing traditional rivalries. We know they're going to have a great basketball program year in and year out, and hopefully we will too. And this game's thought especially significant tonight because it's just been a year since Coach Rupp died, and we're hoping to pull out a little something special.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it along with the rest of us. We'll be back with the player introductions right after this. Back at Rupp Arena, where you can sense the crowd is already anticipating a classic matchup between the Kentucky Wildcats and Kansas Jayhawks. That young lady just won a 23,000 excited about this one. And now Jim Engel will have the introduction of the starting lineup, plus a special attraction, the UK cheerleaders who've been recognized nationally. And now here's public address announcer Jim Engel.
For tonight's game, we would like to introduce the 1978-79 Wildcat cheerleading squad. The Wildcat cheerleading squad recently competed in competitions sponsored by the International Cheerleading Foundation and was judged the 8th best squad among NCAA Division I schools. A sophomore from Somerset, Kentucky, Barbara Betts. A junior from Lexington, Bill Blunt. A sophomore from Louisville, Kathy Cottle. Sophomore from Lexington, Jeff Collins. A sophomore from Edmonton, Dana Emberton. A junior from Lexington, Darrell Fisher. A sophomore from Frankfurt, Jeff Fawcett. A senior from Fort Wright, Dan Kindig. A senior from Iceland, Renee Mussetter. A sophomore from Harrodsburg, Jennifer Parks. A junior from Louisville, Richard Polk. Sophomore from Louisville, Paula Summer. And the Wildcat, a senior from Louisville, Terry Marney. And now introducing the starting lineup for the Kansas Jayhawks. At guard, a 6'1" sophomore, number 00, Wilmore Fowler. At guard, number 14, a 6'2" sophomore, Darnell Valentine. At center, a 7'1" senior, Paul McKeskey. At forward, number 15, 6'5" freshman, Tony Guy. And at forward, a 6'7" sophomore, number 40, Johnny Crawford. And the head coach of Kansas, Ted Owen. And now the Kentucky Wildcats. At guard, a 6'3" junior, number 4, Kyle Macy. At guard, number 22, a 6'1" senior, Truman Claytor. At center, number 50, 6'10", a sophomore, Chuck Alexina. At forward, a sophomore, 6'8", number 40, Fred Howard. And at forward, a 6'6" junior, number 52, LaVon Williams. And the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats, Joe B. Hall.
The Kentucky Wildcats gathered around Joe Hall as they get ready to go against the Kansas Jayhawks. Coached by Ted Owens. Owens in his 15th year there. The Jayhawks, the Big 8 champions last year. Eliminated in the first round of the NCAA by UCLA. And this ball club, very similar to Kentucky. Keep in mind, this is Kansas' first venture out of Allen Fieldhouse. They are 4-0, but all 4 of those wins have been at home. And the Wildcats, gathered around Joe Hall, have also enjoyed an unbeaten season to this point at home. And, of course, tonight they will play host. And perhaps Kansas will have some trouble with road jitters early. We'll watch that. Now, to take you through the first half, here's Denny Treese.
Thank you, Randy. Kansas ranked 5th in the nation by Associated Press. Kentucky number 10. LaVon Williams will jump for the Wildcats. He's 6'6". 6'7", Johnny Crawford to go up for Kansas, and we're ready to go. Dale Kelly, one of the officials, Jerry Menz the other, and Kansas wins the tap. Darnell Valentine quickly ahead to Mokeski. Likes to shoot outside for a big guy, missed that one. Williams on a rebound. Macy across the timeline.
Kansas is in the zone, Denny. That's really no surprise.
Kentucky has attacked zone defenses very patiently so far this season. Bad pass by Williams, picked off by Tony Guy, the freshman from Towson, Maryland. Bounded around and rebounded by Macy, the guard who came inside to claim it. His outlet pass stolen by Darnell Valentine. Stolen right back again by Macy. Now Claytor on the break. Didn't like the odds, he'll slow it down. Alexina's working the high post. Alexina's getting his first test against a guy bigger than him tonight. That's Claytor in the corner. Inside for LaVon Williams. Got it back after having some trouble and fouled in the play. So LaVon Williams will go to the line. Foul has been called against Paul Mokeski. It's his first. He's picking up the foul.
Mokeski has blocked 12 shots this year, Denny. He had a pretty good shot at that one, but body contact caused the foul to be called.
LaVon Williams has been shooting free throws very well this season. 77% coming into tonight. Mokeski, by the way, is the first Kansas 7-footer since a guy named Wilt Chamberlain, who it was announced just this week may be returning to pro basketball. Kentucky on top 2-0. A whistle away from the ball. And Freddie Cowan called for pushing on Tony Guy. Foul on Freddie is his first and Kentucky's first.
Cowan was trying to prevent Guy from flashing out to the wing and taking that pass from the guard. That's one of the most important points of both these offenses, that forward getting open.
Kentucky in the man-to-man. Truman Claytor has the difficult assignment against Darnell Valentine and fouled him right there. The foul on Truman Claytor, his first and the team's second.
How tough is Darnell Valentine? Well, the Lakers, Los Angeles Lakers super scout says he is the best guard in the country at running an offense, bar none.
He's averaging about 6 assists per game in addition to his scoring. That's Tony Guy with a high-arching jump shot. So Kansas is on the board, and we're tied a minute and a half into the game at 2 points each. Claytor calling out the play.
A lot of standing around at this point.
Fans get a little impatient right now. Claytor will take it. Yes, sir. for TC. He's averaging just 5 a game, but he's been averaging just 10 shots a game. He's been concentrating on his defense, which he plays so well. That's Darnell Valentine shooting over Clater. First 2 for Valentine. He's averaging 18 per game, had his high of 23 against Murray State. That's his career high earlier this season. Macy inside for Williams. Took one giant step, had it knocked away by Mokeski. So the ball belongs to Kentucky, knocked out of bounds by Paul Mokeski.
Smart play by Mokeski. He never had to leave his feet. Levon Williams made the mistake of taking the ball down to his waist.
Good pass inside to Cowan, who lays it up off the glass. Give an assist to Clater on the inbounds pass, and a basket to Freddie Cowan. 6-4, Kentucky on top now. 17:40 to play, first half. Valentine again doing that penetrating that we talked about. And let's see which way the call will go. It's on number 22, Truman Clater. 2 quick ones on Truman. On the common foul now, Johnny Crawford will play it in at side court for the Kansas. Averaging 86 points per game, giving up just 70. Tony Guy with a high lob for Mokeski. Macy came over to help out, and then a goaltending call against Levon Williams. Put 2 in the book for Paul Mokeski, his first 2 of the game. Points when they played the Russian team, Randy. That's pretty good against those big trees that the Russians put in there.
They don't go to him down low too often. Kentucky feels Kansas would be even more dangerous if they did that. I guess the reason is guys like Valentine and Fowler operating, they don't have to.
That's Truman Clater missing badly. Tony Guy with a quick outlet pass to Valentine. Ball, keep him from going in. He missed the shot. Rebounded inside by Williams. Another quick outlet pass. This is Macy going the other way. Way back outside to Clater. Valentine tried for the steal. Cowan inside to Williams, working against Mokeski. Has it knocked out of bounds by Tony Guy. Good collapsing defense by Kansas, and the Kentucky scouting report says do not try to dribble inside against these Kansas Jayhawks because everybody sags and helps out well, Randy.
Levon Williams is not going to be able to do too much against Mokeski underneath. He better not hold the ball too long if he is free on the baseline like that. And he's got to keep in mind that Clater and Macy can do the job outside. Fanning it back out quickly would probably be the best route for him to take.
Kansas has forced their opponents into 18 turnovers a game in 4 games so far this year, but Kentucky has forced their opponents into an average of 27, so we could see a lot of boo-boos tonight. That's Chuck Alexina's missing, but the tap up and in by Levon Williams.
Levon Williams has gone to the offensive board superbly here in the opening games of the season. That was a super effort.
Levon putting on the defense there against Johnny Crawford. Really came up with a steal. The fans love it. Good pass by Fowler inside to Valentine.
Macy came up to help on Valentine, or on Fowler, rather.
Valentine had 17 against Kentucky last year out in Lawrence, Kansas, when the Wildcats won by 7. He was just a freshman then, out of Wichita. Macy had a notion, didn't take it. Cowan forcing one up inside, grabs the loose ball. And we got a jump ball call between Fowler and Cowan. One official called it one way. Now the other, Jerry Menz, comes in and says foul on Wilmore Fowler. That's Jerry Menz from the Big 8 Conference.
And Ted Owens wanted traveling. He thought Cowan and Levon Williams both had the ball, and it should have been traveling.
Foul on Wilmore Fowler, sophomore out of Palmetto, Florida. They call him Little Mo. Big Mo, of course, is Paul Mokeski. There's Ted Owens in his 15th year at Kansas. Record of 269 wins, 119 losses. One of the most respected men in the business is Ted Owens.
He's been to the Final Four twice in this decade. You can't get much better than that.
So's a guy named Joe Hall. That's Truman Clater from straightaway. Swish. 4 points for TC from Toledo. Good move by Tony Guy. Went right around Cowan and laid it in. Great head fake by Guy. That's 4 for Tony Guy, who's averaging 13.5, and he had his career high of 19 on Thursday night against Oral Roberts.
Owens feels his forwards aren't as quick this year as they were last year, but nothing slow about Tony Guy.
We're tied at 10 apiece. 15-18 to go first half. Kentucky looking for its 3rd straight victory. Kansas going for its 5th straight.
I sense some hesitancy in the Kentucky offense at this point. They aren't running it smoothly at all. Too many people standing around, and now Macy's going to try to take charge.
Macy trying to go around to pick on the outside. Now resetting the offense. That's Macy getting it inside with a great pass to Cowan. Blocked beautifully by John Crawford. He came from nowhere to block it. Now Guy again trying to work one-on-one against Cowan. It looks like Tony Guy feels he can beat Freddie Cowan, Randy. He's asking for the ball and trying to use those good individual moves. Johnny Crawford with a jumper over Williams. First two for Johnny Crawford, who's averaging 14 per game.
It is safe to say Kansas has more offensive weapons than any team Kentucky's played so far this season, and it's already showing.
Alex Zenas, who has touched the ball precious little tonight, working that high post for Kentucky, but they're not really getting much use out of him. That's Macy from the outside, missed it. He's been off this year from the outside. Williams trying to go after the rebound with a dive and couldn't get it.
Kentucky's in a great deal of trouble if they come down and do what they did that time. Only make a couple of passes and then put it up from that kind of range. I know Kyle Macy's a good shooter, but they need to make a better effort to penetrate.
Well, he's only been hitting 41.7% this season, Randy. They tried a high lob there for John Crawford. Tried to bank it up and got his own rebound. This is Tony Guy. He's got a soft shot from there. 6 points for Tony Guy. He made 5 straight baskets in one stretch against Oral Roberts on Thursday night. They really like him as a young shooter. 14 and 10. Tim Stevens coming off the Kentucky bench at the first opportunity as Clater misses, but jammed back in there by Freddie Cowan. 4 points for Freddie. Look how quick Valentine answers for Kansas. He just pushed it down court and got it in there. 6 points for Valentine.
That's the key to their whole offense. They've got to contain Valentine's dribble or they'll do that all night.
He was the unanimous Rookie of the Year in the Big 8 Conference last year, and more pushing now away from the basketball. Levon Williams and Tony Guy were going at it, and I think we're going to get a double foul, Randy.
Levon Williams is going to be charged for sure, and I think you're right. As Cowan comes out, Tim Stevens came in for him.
There's Ted Owens, and we will get the double foul and the resulting jump ball at center court.
You saw Ted Owens changing a defensive assignment there from the bench.
So Williams and Guy to jump now. Kentucky with a slight height advantage, and Alex Zenas comes away with it. Valentine tries to steal. A little contact, but apparently no blood, no foul.
I'd have to agree. Incidental contact didn't affect the play.
This is Tim Stevens, who just checked in, and what a shooter he's been this year. 75%. 6 of 8 in each of Kentucky's 2 opening ball games. Macy from straightaway. Now Levon Williams. Guy and Mokeski converged on him. The foul has been called. It's going to go against Tony Guy. That's the second on Tony. 2 quick ones here. So Clater to toss in now along the baseline. Stevens had a notion, brings it back out to Macy. His shooting has been a mystery. Almost 54% last year. The leading percentage shooter in the Southeastern Conference among the guards. That's Clater. He missed, and the rebound taken down by Valentine. Tries to start the break himself, directing traffic. Off to Wilmore Fowler. Shoots that fadeaway jumper and misses. Look at Johnny Crawford go after the rebound and put it back. 4 points for Johnny Crawford.
Johnny Crawford was not boxed out at all that time. He had a clear path to the offensive board.
That's Tim Stevens. Around and out. No luck for Tim. Valentine on the break again. The Jayhawks by 6 already. Knocked away from him by Stevens. Retrieved by Kansas. Darnell Valentine will shoot from out. 2 more. 8 points for Valentine. He was the Jayhawks' leading scorer last year at 13.5, and Coach Joe Hall wants a timeout at the first opportunity. Truman Clater calling it down, and there is timeout on the floor with a score: Kansas 20, Kentucky 12. Back in Rupp Arena, Denny Treese with you along with Randy Waters. And Randy, the Cats came in here shooting 50% as a team, but it's dipping fast.
Unofficially, 5 out of 13, 38.4%. You see the reason right on your screen. The Kansas Jayhawks are not allowing penetration into the middle of their zone. Their guards are doing a good job against Kentucky's Wildcats of coming out, denying the guard to the forward pass. And when the forward does get the pass, he's so far out on the floor, out on the wing, he can't really get into the offense. Darnell Valentine, number 14 there, his quickness is really telling.
Hey, they're not shooting too bad at the other end either. 10 of 15 for 66.6.
The word on them is they'll pull up and put up the jump shot no matter what kind of rebounding strength they have underneath. So far, they've hit those jump shots.
This is Macy looking over it. That tight zone. Kentucky going into a variety of a 1-3-1 zone attack here.
The weak points of the 1-3-1 are on the wings. You got to get the ball there, but you got to get it there quickly.
Macy playing the point, and the wingman there is Clater and Stevens.
They're not coming out very far on those wings. Notice next time the forward gets the ball, or Clater, they don't really come clear out to get him. Playing back a little bit.
Macy will take it. First two for Kyle Macy. He had a great game against Kansas last year. Made 5 out of 8 from the field. 15 points for the Cats in Lawrence a year ago. 20 and 14 now. Kansas by 6 again. 10:37 to go. Bad pass. Tim Stevens put some good D on Tony Guy and forced the bad pass. The second turnover by Kansas in this opening half. Kentucky, I'm sure, would like to get some shots here from 6'3" forward Tim Stevens right there from Revelo, Kentucky. Or Clater from the other side, for that matter. Stevens inside to Williams. Alexinus has it stolen by Valentine. Wilmore Fowler on the break, knocked away from him by Macy. Kyle Macy had 6 steals in Kentucky's first 2 games and is playing better defense this year than he did a year ago, Randy.
He might put a patent on that move of knocking the ball off the offensive player's hip before he even gets it up to the basket level. That's the only place to do it. You'll foul him if you wait till later.
Valentine missed. Rebound claimed by Williams. 10 minutes exactly to play before intermission. Macy again. Right him down. Kyle has been averaging 12. He's one of the 8 Wildcats in double digits coming in tonight. Mokeski with a turnaround over Alexinus and a whistle inside. Somebody got a little too enthusiastic, blocking out the rebound.
Levon Williams, I think, Danny, he and Mo Fowler were really pushing and shoving coming down the lane. It was just a matter of who got caught.
Chuck Verderber has checked into the lineup for Kentucky at the center position now, and Alexinus has gone out. Verderber is the 6'6" freshman from Lincoln, Illinois, number 34. Inbounds pass to Valentine, penetrating against Clater and scoring. 10 points already for Valentine, the first player in this game to reach double figures, and Dwight Anderson will be checking into the lineup for Kentucky. Stevens. Again, no luck for Tim. It danced around on the rim but wouldn't drop. So he's already missed as many shots in this game as he did in each of the first 2. Good defensive play there by Williams, the 3rd Kentucky turnover with lots of help from Kentucky there. Truman Clater with 2. 6 points for Truman. Wildcats back within 4. 8:50 to play. The high lob for Mokeski. This is a mismatch against Verderber, but that time Chuck held his own. Mokeski at 7'1" and Verderber at 6'6". Dwight Anderson coming in for Kentucky now, number 23, the freshman from Dayton, Ohio. He's 6'3". Levon Williams has gone out. That's Cowan coming back in, and replacing Truman Clater at the guard is Dwight Anderson.
A quick lineup for Kentucky. They might try to run now whenever they can.
Verderber trying to head off that pass inside to Mokeski in the foul call. Paul Mokeski outplayed UCLA's fine center David Greenwood in the NCAA last year. Had a great game against him, shooting over Verderber here on an air ball. Missed everything. Johnny Crawford hacked on the wrist by Fred Cowan. That's the second on Freddie, and 2 shots coming to Johnny Crawford. Be quite a feather in the cap of Verderber if he could come in here and do the job against Mokeski, Randy.
Well, he's looking up to the big man. He's got to do a couple of things. One is to front him so they can't get the easy bounce pass into him. Of course, to do that, he's going to need some help from his teammates, get some weak side help, because he will be vulnerable to the lob pass, which is what they tried before, but McKeskey was too far under the basket.
John Crawford at the line. He only played 9 games last year before he succumbed to academic difficulties. Missing the free throw there. He's been great from the field this year. 24 of his first 34 shots went in. He made 9 of 11 against Oral Roberts on Thursday night. He's got 5 so far in this one. The Kansas lead is 5. 23-18. Verderber on the drive. Dishes it off to Cowan on a foul call. Let's pause 5 seconds for our stations to identify themselves.
TV6, WPSC TV, Paducah, Kentucky.
That foul was on Paul Mokeski, a big 7-footer. Kentucky trailing Kansas here by 5 with 8.5 minutes to go in the first half. And there's another big game on the UK campus tomorrow. The University of Kentucky Lady Cats, fresh off an upset of a fine Ohio State team and a very impressive win over Murray State. Tomorrow take on the Czechoslovakia national team. That's at 3 p.m. at Memorial Coliseum. The UK Lady Cats against Czechoslovakia.
Domestic affairs are concerned here right now. Kansas and Kentucky, and the Jayhawks up by 5.
Kyle Macy to toss in. Kentucky leads the series between these two teams 9-1. Stevens misses his 3rd straight shot. Valentine hurrying it down against Anderson. And if you can hurry it by Dwight Anderson, you got some kind of quickness.
Dwight Anderson just got an education.
Anderson trying to answer, lost the ball. Now Cowan loses it out of bounds, and it belongs to Kansas. That's 4 Kentucky turnovers.
I'm afraid Dwight Anderson got caught up in the fever of the moment there. He hurried that ball down, but once he got it down, there was no avenue open. He tried to create something that was not there.
8 minutes exactly to play now in the first half. Tony Guy shooting over Tim Stevens. Rebounded by Anderson. Valentine cut him off at the pass. Now Macy inside for Cowan with a quick turnaround. Rebounded by John Crawford. Freddie Cowan won't miss that last shot very often. It's his favorite. That quick turnaround off the glass. This is Valentine over Anderson. It won't fall, but a foul called on Dwight Anderson. The first on Dwight. Anderson. Hall up off the bench again.
Anderson just didn't get there in time. Had he been in a little better position, I don't think Valentine would even attempted the shot, but Anderson was a little late getting over. Boy, that's some quickness when Darnell Valentine and Dwight Anderson are matched up. That's about the quickest couple of people this side of the NBA.
Really, the only trouble Darnell Valentine has had this year has been at the free throw stripe. Made only 3 of 8 on Thursday night against Oral Roberts, but drilled that one. 13 points for Darnell Valentine already. And he's only 4 away from his average now as that one goes through. The Kansas lead is 9. Kentucky trying to split that defense. Anderson with the pass into the corner to Stevens. Tipped away by Valentine. He cut off the pass inside to Verderber. Behind the back to Tony Guy. Rebounded by Macy. Verderber kicks it off to Stevens. Can he hit his first one in 4 tries? Yes, he can.
A key right there. Did you see how quickly Verderber got rid of the ball? He faked some penetration and kicked it back out. That's what's got to happen against that zone. Once the ball's inside, it's got to be put up or fanned out quickly.
Wilmore Fowler took a walk. So we'll go the other way. That's the 4th Kansas turnover. Levon Williams checking back in for the Wildcats, and Tim Stevens going out. He just lit up the scoreboard in the last trip down. Kansas leading 27-20, 6.5 minutes to go in the half. Kentucky averaging 115 points a game coming into this thing. Anderson on the drive. Cowan to the tap. Freddie Cowan. It's not going to go. Let's see. A foul has been called on Freddie. The basket is good and a 1-and-1 at the other end. So 6 points now for Freddie Cowan, but more importantly, 3 fouls on Freddie.
Cowan has done a good job on the offensive board, and it's going to hurt if Kentucky has to rest him, which they probably will with 3 personals. Keep one thing in mind. Ted Owens, the controversy is still raging over that when Joe Hall still questioning the call. Ted Owens has not gone to his bench yet. This game is being played at a pretty frantic pace. Played very hard, and that might tell in the second half. It's one thing to watch.
Here's Tim Stevens coming back in now, and Fred Cowan going to the bench with his 3 personals. Yeah, the pass, Randy, Ted Owens is substituted almost as much as Dean Smith at North Carolina. He's had a reputation as a guy who uses his bench, but not quite as much this season. Tony Guy got them both.
Well, we've only got 6:15 left in the first half, and he hasn't used it at all.
Macy giving up his dribble unusually high. He usually doesn't check that dribble until he has to. Tim Stevens will try again. Rebounded by Tony Guy. Stevens only 1 of 5 tonight. Tried to thread the needle inside for John Crawford, knocked out by Kentucky. .544 to go in the half. Kansas leading 29-20. This is Mokeski with a turnaround. A whistle inside. It's on Wilmore Fowler trying to get position against Kyle Macy. So the 2 guards inside doing battle there. And the Kentucky coaches seem to think, Randy, that Wilmore Fowler goes to the boards about as well as any guard they'll play all season.
He had 10 rebounds last year in one game against Oklahoma State for a guard. That is just unheard of. He really crashes him. The man in your screen is going to have to stand tall tonight, all right. Kyle Macy is going to have to engineer this offense.
That was the 2nd foul on Wilmore Fowler. Kentucky can cut the Kansas advantage now to 7. Dangerous pass inside for Williams. This is Dwight Anderson moving along the baseline, gliding, giving off to Stevens. Put 2 in the book for Tim Stevens. 4 points for Tim. Valentine ran into Anderson. Lots of contact there, and traveling is the call.
Darnell Valentine really wanted the foul. That's 5 Kansas turnovers. It could have gone either way, either the charge or the blocking foul on Anderson. The official saw no contact or referred it incidental contact. Ted Owens doesn't think it's incidental. He is really going at it.
Got a technical foul on him, and he was way out beyond where a coach is supposed to be these days.
That will be a 2-shot technical because it's a technical on the bench.
Kyle Macy hasn't missed a free throw yet this year. Still hasn't. Randy, I think Ted Owens had some room for a complaint there, but it came at a bad time for his team.
It certainly did. Kansas lead was 9 at 29-20. Now it's only 5, and Kentucky has them all.
This could be the turning point. Macy off the side of the backboard support. And Levon Williams just ran over Darnell Valentine. That's the 3rd on Williams, so both of Kentucky's starting forwards have 3 now. And Chuck Alexanis replaces Levon Williams. Alexanis now will man the center position, and Verderber will move to forward. Kentucky with a small lineup there before Alexanis just checked back in.
Joe Hall has got to be cursing his luck on that one. It was a totally unintentional foul on Williams, but those still count. They can't afford to have him out of there the way he goes to the boards.
And Valentine with another 15-foot freebie right here. 1 plus 1. You'll get the bonus. 15 points for Darnell. 16. Lead back up to 7 with 5 minutes to go in the half. Alex Zenas with a strong move inside off the glass. Blocking foul call. Let's see if they'll give him the chance at the three-pointer. Dale Kelly goes over to the scoring table and says yes.
They have not put that up on the board. It will not count.
It was on Valentine, the guard, collapsing again.
He came in and tried to pick Alex Zenas' pocket.
That's the first on Valentine by your standard. Alex Zenas missed, and Valentine claimed the rebound. Valentine leading cheers now as he brings it across. This is Tony Guy with Stevens on him. Kentucky staying with the man-to-man, and an illegal block that time. Illegal pick on John Crawford, I believe.
He was setting a moving pick. That's the thing you don't see called too often. Perhaps it should be called more often. A lot of movement, contact under there, and he was moving as he was setting the pick.
That's the first foul on Johnny Crawford. Macy with a bullet pass inside to Verderber. Good head fake, then had it batted back at him. Mokeski to Valentine. This is John Crawford. Swish. 7 points for Johnny Crawford. Macy will take it. Mokeski claimed the rebound. This is Valentine. But Fowler crashed the boards and was fouled in the process by Macy. Jay Scheidler checking in for Kentucky now, the 6'1" junior guard from Lawrenceville, Illinois, and as he does, a timeout is called. Timeout with the score, Kansas 33, Kentucky 24.
When you decide to save money, to open a savings account, there are many things to...
Kansas has reestablished its lead at 9 points now with 3:57 to go in the half. Jay Scheidler has just come off the Kentucky bench. He played a big part in the Wildcats' win out in Lawrence, Kansas last year. Came in and bombed in a couple of his long patented jump shots in 3 tries, and he kind of did a can-opener job on the very tight Kansas defense. He opened things up, and Kentucky wound up winning by 7, Randy.
The factor out there last year in the second half was that Darnell Valentine was in foul trouble. Only played about 4 minutes. So far tonight, Valentine has only 1 personal. No one in trouble for Kansas. And, in fact, it's Kentucky that's in trouble with Freddie Cowan and Levon Williams both having 3 personals. And, again, the same 5 people out there for the Jayhawks.
Macy sat down for Kentucky, so Scheidler will be running the show now. Wilmore Fowler at the line. He had his season high of 12 on Thursday night against Oral Roberts. There's his first point of the night. A 10-point advantage now for Kansas. Look for Scheidler to take a couple outside now. Alex Zenas with a turnaround. No go. Verderber back up. Blocked by Mokeski. Long pass ahead to Fowler. Fowler trying to go around Scheidler now, who dives for the ball. John Crawford defended very well by Verderber there. It still belongs to Kansas.
Mo Fowler thought he could blow around Jay Scheidler, and Scheidler really fooled him. Fowler did not look for Scheidler to be that quick.
Valentine putting on some super moves, but then ran into Chuck Verderber. Well, there's there's what we talked about in the pregame comments, Randy. If they can draw some charges against Valentine and get him in foul trouble, it could change the entire complexion of the game.
Credit Dwight Anderson with that charge in a way, because he reached around from behind and caused Valentine to lose control of the ball. Head cheerleader for Kansas right now is Ted Owens, and for that reason Valentine barreled into Verderber.
Anderson was open on the wing, decided not to take it. 3 minutes to go now before intermission. This is Scheidler. Yes, sirree. First two for Jay. He's hit 7 of 12 shots this season now, Randy. Nothing wrong with that. A high lob for Mokeski, and somehow he blew it. Fowler off to Crawford, had it knocked away. Anderson retrieved. Look at him blow down court. Circles the wagons now. Off to Scheidler. Had a notion. Jay showing good shot selection this year, Randy.
Much better.
Bad ones.
Much better than in the past. He's the kind of competitor that relishes coming in this situation, too.
Anderson, who uses those baseline drive moves so well, has it knocked away there. Retrieved by Crawford off to Fowler, and he says, let's just slow things down a little bit.
That wasn't all Dwight Anderson's fault. He got no help. No one moved away from the ball.
Tony Guy shooting over Tim Stevens with a foul called on Tim. This is first. Joe Hall having a chat now with Dwight Anderson and Tim Stevens. These young cats have a lot to learn, Randy, and they're the first to admit it. I was at practice yesterday, and a very serious note. I think there was a seriousness of purpose that was evident here. They know what they have to do, and they want very much to satisfy these Kentucky fans.
So far, Kansas is administering a lesson to them.
Tony Guy got one and missed one. He's got 9 points in the game now. .145 to play in the half. Stevens had it knocked away momentarily. There's good ball movement. Alexinus, a nice pass from Verderber. Give the assist to Chuck Verderber. The basket to Chuck Alexinus. Kentucky back within 7. Darnell Valentine telling his troops to be cool. Kentucky coming out a little further to meet him now.
They're going to back off. They want Kentucky in the man-to-man. They don't want to see that zone.
Wonder if Joe Hall is content to go to the dressing room down by 7, Randy.
Kansas certainly would be, I think, and they're spreading it out, letting Valentine do the work.
Now you can play clock watcher with us here.
I think he is. Coach Hall is telling him not to come all the way out from the bench right now. He's signaling stay back. 30 seconds. Cat and mouse right now. Kansas can afford to play the game. They're up.
Kentucky's 115-point-per-game scoring average is in some serious jeopardy tonight. They've got 28 on the board so far, and now Valentine of Kansas calls a timeout. So they'll get the last shot of the half. They'll work it around Randy and hope to take a 9-point advantage.
To Robert Knight.
Bobby Knight, he's one of the best in the business, and Joe Hall has proved himself to be so also. So that will be a thinking man's game as well as a player's game.
I think I'd pay to see Joe Hall and Bobby Knight coach from the sideline, not even pay attention to the 10 men on the floor.
Really? Coach Ted Owens of Kansas came out and asked referee Jerry Menz there where his team will be getting the basketball. They're playing it in at side court just in front of our microphones here. Kentucky trying to defend against a shot by Crawford there. And now the Wildcats know they will not have a chance at the last shot. They're going to give it to Kansas, and so the Jayhawks will try again with 4 seconds.
Alex Enos and Verderber pulled the Alphonse and Gaston act there. Either one of them had a shot at it, and they let it go out of bounds.
Crawford to toss in. Well, Kentucky will get a chance at the last shot. 3 seconds. Scheidler takes it. Just missed. So that's the end of the first half with a score Kansas 35, Kentucky 28. Now, Joe Hall has not been terribly hard on these young cats so far this season. He's naturally hasn't been under quite the pressure himself this year as a year ago when the Cats were expected to win the national championship from the very day the season began. But I imagine he had some harsh words for them at halftime here. The Cats trailing Kansas 35-28, and as Randy told you, Kansas made 7 layups in that first half. That represents a large part of their scoring effort. Now here to take you through the second half is Randy Waters.
Thank you, Danny. Jay Scheidler, the change in the Kentucky lineup. He will start the second half in place of Kyle Macy. And it's Scheidler who will have the first opportunity to run Kentucky's offense. They're down by 7, 35-28. Again, Kansas in the zone, moving with the ball very well on the outside. Alex Enos is calling for the ball inside. I don't think that's wise. They've got him surrounded. That's Williams on the baseline. They collapse on him. Scheidler with the first shot of the second half, and he got it. 4 for Jay Scheidler. Kentucky in the man-to-man. Cowan flashed out in front and knocked it away. Well, the crowd is up ready for the second half.
Yes, if this old reciprocal agreement works again, they stir up the crowd, and the crowd stirs them up, Randy. The comeback could be on.
It's important for Kentucky to grab control right at the start of the second half. This Kansas ball club is a veteran ball club. These guys know what they're doing. Cowan on the rebound. A basket would make it a 3-point margin. Cowan with a nice head fake, but he dragged the pivot foot. Coach Joe Hall unhappy with that. The opportunity was there. Freddie Cowan with the nice fake had the Jayhawks up off their feet and flying, but he dragged the pivot foot. You see it. 5-point difference between Kentucky and Kansas. McKeskey took the lob and dunked it. Paul McKeskey, only his second basket of the night, but I would call that one an authoritative one.
Joe Hall just got a warning from referee Jerry Menz. He said, sit down or I'm going to put it on you.
Well, Ted Owens got a T in the first half, and it cost them a couple of points as Kentucky converted the free throws. Alex Enos pulls his way inside. That's Tony Guy on the run for Kansas. He had Valentine ahead of him. Mo Fowler against Scheidler, one-on-one. See, Fowler floated in the air, but he got in trouble. He went through the lane and encountered heavy traffic. Going to be a foul called inside on Kentucky. Despite the warning, Kentucky coach Joe Hall up again. Jay Scheidler picked up the personal. His first of the night. Kentucky's first team foul in the second half, but they ruled that Mo Fowler was in the act of shooting, so he'll have a pair from the line. Only Fowler's second point of the night. Ted Owens thinks this guy is a potential 55% shooter from the field. He hasn't shown it so far in his career, though, but they tout Fowler and Valentine as the best sophomore guard combination in the country. At this point, I believe him.
Now Joe Hall's taking on the other official, Randy, Dale Kelly.
Later at the point, off to Cowan on the wing. Look how they've got Levon Williams surrounded in the corner. They back off him a bit. I think Alex Enos has it in his head to go to the basket when he gets the ball, and you saw the sophomore from Connecticut get the bucket. 39-32, the Kansas lead is 7. And Truman Claytor, I think the picture speaks for itself. Very unhappy with that, his third person.
Well, they did a good job of running him right into the pick. Claytor, Cowan, and Williams all with 3 now, Randy.
Valentine with the ball. Hasn't had his hands on it that much in the second half. Tony Gallo put it up. Cowan blocked it.
Got Scheidler playing the baseline on that 1-3-1 now and Plater the point. They're doing a good job.
Mo Fowler with the long one. Kansas working those boards hard. That was Tony Guy flying through on the tip try to Johnny Crawford, and I think he flew through on someone's back. He'll be called for the foul. His second.
Interesting to see now just how Darnell Valentine attacks this 1-3-1, Randy. He did a pretty good job against the man-to-man, that's for sure.
He does a pretty good job no matter what he attacks. Plater from way out on top. Levon Williams working the boards hard. He drew the foul from Johnny Crawford. Well, you can say what you want to about Levon Williams' shooting touch. It has been questioned at times, and rightfully so. He hasn't displayed any ability for great range, but no one, absolutely no one, questions that young man's ability to hit the board.
The best thing, Randy, is that Levon understands his role. He knows he's never going to be a great shooting forward, but knows he can be a super offensive rebounder and an intimidating defensive player.
6 points for Williams, 39-34. The 7-point halftime advantage has been cut to 5. Ted Owens wants to talk it over. The names you see on your screen have accounted for more college basketball victories than any other two universities in the history of the game. Kentucky has the upper hand in that category, but right now in this ball game, Kansas leads 39-34, a 5-point margin as the Wildcats come back onto the floor. You can see nearly 17 minutes of time remaining for the Wildcats to jump back in it. That's plenty of time. The only thing is they've got to do some things different on the floor. That is shut down Darnell Valentine, which so far in the second half they have done. He has not scored here in the second half.
Plater coming out high on that 1-3-1.
Play a little trapping of the ball out on top here. They tried on Fowler. He almost threw it away.
They're going to put it away, Randy. Definitely trying to pull him out of the 1-3-1. Coach Ted Owens called that timeout in a big hurry. He really wanted it bad. He came running out the center court, and undoubtedly this is the strategy. Ted Owens, by the way, only the 5th coach they've ever had at Kansas. The first one was a guy named Dr. James Naismith, who just happened to invent the game of basketball.
Well, Ted Owens and Joe Hall are two coaches that go at it like they want to write their names in the history books. And right now, Owens has the upper hand. He has the ball, and he can afford to force the issue, which he's doing at the moment. Kansas backing off, sitting on it. And Kentucky in the 1-3-1 zone has to decide whether to come out and get the ball, whether to go man-to-man. As you see Kentucky coach Joe Hall pacing the sideline, instructing his ball club on what to do. And I think they're going to switch to a man-to-man. They pair up right there. Scheidler comes out on Mo Fowler. That's Valentine and Plater. Fowler got by Plater, and Truman Plater will be called, or Jay Scheidler, I'm sorry. Jay Scheidler called for the person.
Joe Hall didn't think so. Jay Scheidler didn't think so.
Kentucky manager's out on the floor at the moment trying to wipe some debris off the floor. It might cause injury, so we've got a temporary hold on things. Now we get going. That's Johnny Crawford inbound to Darnell Valentine. Plater picks him up. Kentucky in the man-to-man. Give Kansas the mental victory there. They force the Cats out of the zone. Alexinas on Mokeski, and he puts up the shot and gets it. Mokeski held it for a while, but the end result was a Kansas basket. 41-34. Kentucky trails just over 15 minutes to go in the ball game. Now at this end, Kansas back in their zone. They've got the lead. Cowan with the jumper.
He's got to do that, Randy, for Kentucky to be effective against that zone.
The forwards have got to cause some trouble. Valentine into the lane. Plater tried to block it and couldn't get it. be the Jayhawks basketball, which doesn't make the evening for one coach, Joe B. Hall. Now they're back into it again. I've seen this act before. We'll see if the climax is any different this time around. Dick Parsons and Joe Hall talking it over on the Kentucky bench, and they came out of it into the man-to-man. Scheidler paired up on Mo Fowler. That's Tony Guy and Freddie Cowan. Johnny Crawford authoritatively shows that Kansas did what they wanted to do. 43-36. Knocked away. Williams tried to save it and does to Cowan. He's got a lot of traffic around him, but the soft jumper won't go. Same man on the offensive board. He can't get it to fall, and Johnny Crawford has it stolen by LeVon Williams. The foul will be on Johnny Crawford. That's his fourth. Foul in the second half. It'll be a two-shot foul. LeVon Williams is taking the ball back up. For the first time tonight, Ted Owens goes to his bench. Number 21, Max Stalkup, will be checking into the lineup at the first opportunity. Williams will have 2 free throws.
Begin to wonder if the other guys have brought their shoes, Randy.
Crawford goes out with 4 personals. Stalkup is a junior. His 2-year field goal percentage at Kansas is 62%, so he knows what to do with the ball when he gets it. 43-38, Kansas by 5. This time Kentucky in the man-to-man from the outset on the possession. Valentine working against Truman Claytor. And I mean working. And Claytor forced the jump ball. I don't think, as you see Ted Owens calling a play from the sideline, I don't think Valentine thought he was in any trouble, any danger of exceeding the time limit. Williams controls for Kentucky. How many times tonight has LeVon Williams been attracted to a loose ball like a magnet? He got that into Alexinas. Valentine with the quick hands, and they call Alexinas for the offensive foul. Second Kentucky turnover. Chuck Alexinas' first personal foul of the night. Guy flashed out to the wing and didn't take the shot. Claytor gambled and got beat. And that's Stalkup getting his first 2 points of the night. 45-38 Kansas. Back to the halftime margin of 7 points. Each club has scored 10 here in the second half. Been through a little over 7 minutes of action. Alexinas fans it outside. Scheidler will take it. Knocked back up and in by Freddie Cowan. Freddie Cowan may have 3 fouls, but he sure went to the boards with abandon there. Claytor tracks Darnell Valentine. They just cleared the side for Darnell Valentine that time. They simply cleared the side and let Valentine do his thing, and you saw what happened.
And he's doing his thing against one of the best defensive guards in the country in Truman Claytor, Randy.
His first 2 of the second half. Alexinas inside. He was in a lot of trouble, but did draw the foul. Clarence Tillman, the freshman, will check in. Freddie Cowan will take our seat. That foul was on Paul Molkeski, the big man, the 7-foot-1-inch center. Chuck Alexinas, who has had his problems from the field this year, but has always been a pretty good free throw shooter, and he gets that. For Alexinas and a 5-point Kansas lead. They get it down quickly to Tony Guy. Fowler on the follow shot. It will not count. Alexinas will be called for the personal. If he picks himself up off the deck, that's his second foul. He's picked up 2 here in the second half.
The ice being thrown onto the court now. Fans lose control.
I think anyone that throws ice onto a basketball floor should find themselves losing their seat if the culprit could be identified immediately. Tony Guy will have a pair of shots. Guy had 9 in the first half, and that's his first point of the second half. Williams again on the board. 48-42, 6-point lead. Scheidler is open. LaVon Williams had a shot at it, but couldn't get it away from the big guy, Mokeski. Valentine across the timeline. Kentucky back quickly that time. Did a good job of shutting off Valentine. He wanted to run. That's Tony Guy on LaVon Williams. Scheidler flashed by for the steal. Fowler pulled up with the jumper. And they call Kentucky for clearing out with the elbow. Truman Claytor, I guess, for clearing out on the offensive board. They say he swung the elbow to get free under the board. He's got 4. Truman Claytor is the man they want to have on Darnell Valentine. That hurts.
You have to wonder if Kyle Macy is sitting over there on the bench. Well, he's getting up. So what I was wondering about is how bad is that thigh injury bothering him? Apparently not too bad.
It's not wrapped. It has been wrapped in the opening 2 games. Tony Guy turned it over. Williams inside. He turns and finds McKeskey facing him, so he goes back to Scheidler. LaVon Williams on the board. 10 for Williams. The lead is down to 4 at 48-44. McKeskey with the jumper. Tillman at the other end. This is a critical period. Kentucky needs to make the run at him here. Scheidler. LaVon Williams to Alexinas. It will not go. Tillman works. The little guy, Valentine, muscled it away from the big men underneath. Darnell Valentine was just a show from coast to coast that time. He muscled the ball away underneath and simply took it all the way in. That was an All-American play. He took charge. Tillman on the wing. The lead is 6 at 50-44. Kansas still in the zone. That was a very critical period. Very critical play. Scheidler has missed his last 3 or 4 shots. He can't get the touchback. Tony Guy motors across. He had Stalkup ahead of him. Kansas will call a timeout now. So with 10-8 enjoys a 6-point advantage. Let's pause 5 seconds for our stations to identify themselves.
WPST TV, Channel 6, Paducah, Kentucky.
Kentucky still not shooting the ball well, Denny. 5 of 15, 33%. Kansas has increased their shooting percentage, 8 out of 14, 57%.
You have to wonder, Randy, if Kentucky might not sometime before the evening's over go to some kind of a combination zone with everybody playing zone except the man on Valentine. That way, if he dribbles around his man, at least he's dribbling into zone coverage.
Foul that time on Jay Scheidler, I think, was called away from the ball. He's got 3 personals. That is the 7th team foul on Kentucky, so Kansas, and that's another important factor, is now on the 1-and-1. Kansas has only 4 team fouls here in the second half, and Darnell Valentine is the man at the line. So evidenced by the 33% shooting percentage. Well, I guess if you care to list all the names from the basketball past of these 2 schools, you could spend all night doing that, but the names that count right now are the young men out on the floor. And Darnell Valentine will be at the line for Kansas. Cowan on the board. Macy, Tillman, Scheidler, Cowan, and Alexinas is your Kentucky lineup. McKeskey in the middle in the zone for Kansas. That's Cowan against McKeskey, and McKeskey fouled him. The big guy flips the ball away. He thought he had the clean block. Paul McKeskey, as Denny mentioned when the ball game started, a California native, and he's got 4 personal fouls on him. That is a bigger factor defensively for Kansas than it is offensively. They do not go to him that much on offense, but they count on him to be their intimidator in the middle on defense.
The guy who they often send in for him, Randy, Chester Giles, a little lankier fellow who's also had knee problems in the past, coming off knee surgery. So Alexinas might be able to do a better job against him.
Cowan missed an opportunity to make it a 4-point margin, so it's still 50-44. Kansas leads. We're now past the halfway point in the second half at 9:48 to go. Valentine, the quick move against Scheidler. How far? Tony Guy. Look how far out he is. And then Mo Fowler almost to the midcourt line. They're doing a good job, of course. Now they've dropped back into the zone. When you get good ball handlers like Guy and Darnell Valentine operating, that's going to happen sooner or later. If they're out there, the foul is called on Freddie Cowan. He's got 4.
That's going to get Levon Williams back in the game.
Tony Guy had 19 against Oral Roberts the other night. In that performance, included 5 straight in the second half when the game was still in doubt. As you see Levon Williams check in and Freddie Cowan go out. Guy will now get the end of the 1-and-1, and he missed it. That was Tillman on the rebound. 51-44. Kentucky had closed within 4 at one point here in the second half. It's 7 again. Look at the quick hands of Kansas. Tony Guy took it away. 3 Kentucky turnovers in the second half. Guy does the job himself bringing it up. In fact, when Valentine's out, he is their point guard. Look at the ball handling by Darnell Valentine. Catch me if you can, and few people can. Kansas protecting a 7-point lead and the ball. They are just tantalizing the Kentucky defense, just penetrating enough to avoid the jump ball and then bringing it back out. This may look haphazard in schoolyard, but this takes discipline and practice, and you can tell Kansas is well drilled in this facet of the game. That's the level Mo Fowler gets to the Kentucky defense. Now that's Tony Guy who looks at him from the floor level. Foul is called on Guy for pushing off, trying to protect the ball. Owens doesn't like it, but the man beside him does. Kyle Macy will have a chance to help Kentucky get back in the ball game. He and Scheidler are the guards. The next foul on Kansas, Kentucky will have the 1-and-1. That was the 6th-team foul. Macy after the fake with the shot. Max Stalkup was out of bounds. It'll be Kentucky's ball. Kyle Macy's shooting continues to puzzle everyone, I'm sure, including him. (51-44) Jayhawks, almost to the 8-minute mark of the ball game. Scheidler wants Macy to come out and run the show. He does so. He got that one. Macy, first 2 points of the second half. He's got 8 on the night. It's 51-46.
They just said, I dare you, and he accepted it, Randy, and that's the kind of a competitor Kyle Macy is. Now, here, the defenders away from the ball are so important.
Valentine was on the drive to Stalkup underneath, and he got himself into trouble. Kentucky's ball.
What I started to say, Randy, is the defenders away from the ball must pressure their men enough to cut off the passing option of the man with the ball. If you do it well, you can stop that stall.
They did it that time, and Valentine drove down the lane, and Stalkup committed the turnover. So Kentucky will have a shot to close the gap even farther. Williams and Tillman play catch with it over there. I think that play catch a little too long. That's Scheidler. Jay Scheidler with the bomb. He has 6. The lead is 3. You see Darnell Valentine calling the plays. He comes up the floor. He is a cool customer. This crowd at the moment is anything but cool. 23,000 on their feet wanting some action. McKeskey took the lob and put it in. Paul McKeskey got the basket. Darnell Valentine, a great assist.
Alex Zenas lost sight of the ball. You've got to keep one eye on it at all times. He didn't know where the ball was. It went up over him, and McKeskey got the easy 2.
He turned his head, and it cost him. It cost him 2 points. 53-48. It's a 5-point lead. Scheidler picked up the loose ball. Tillman with the jumper. The freshman from West Philadelphia, who's been in some hot ones in that city in high school basketball, responds to the pressure. It's 53-50, and Jay Scheidler, trying to come through the pick, is called for the foul.
And 4 on Jay now, Randy. At the other end, when Clarence Tillman put that shot up, Joe Hall went, "Oh, no." And when it went in, he said, "Oh, yeah."
Well, the side of that ball nestling down into that net has caused many a coach to change his mind about a shot. One thing Joe Hall has not changed his mind about. He's not happy with the score. It's 53-50. Kansas is on top by 3, and Mo Fowler will have a chance to extend that lead. He'll be at the line with the 1-and-1. Will tell you that it gives them more satisfaction, perhaps, to quiet an opposing crowd than it does to stir up their own. And Mo Fowler silenced a few with that one, and he also does the same there. Mo Fowler gets both free throws. 6 points for him. They've all come from the line. 55-50 Kansas. Macy with the shot. It came back out. McKeskey on the boards. Valentine will be called, I thought, for the offensive foul, but he walked before the contact was occurred.
What kind of a call was that?
You see Valentine picking himself up off the deck. Jay Scheidler had done an excellent job of positioning himself to draw the charge.
These officials are taking the easy way out. They've done it 3 or 4 times tonight, Randy. On an either-or call, they take none of the above.
At that point, it gives Kentucky the ball. Paul McKeskey, involved in contact behind that play, is limping. You see the big guy, 7'1", bending over. He's got a long way to go down. What's bothering him is, I think, his ankle. He was holding his ankle moments ago.
How about that time, Randy, that Jay Scheidler got there in time, but it would have been the offensive foul on Valentine, but it could have gone the other way. It was one of those split-second things. But to call it traveling is out of the question, I think.
There was contact, and it was not incidental. It did affect the play. McKeskey has walked it off sufficiently enough. Johnny Crawford will come back in at this point. McKeskey does not want to go out. However, Ted Owens is the boss, so he will take a seat. McKeskey sits down with 8 points. His contribution, though, is not really scoring. It is defense. It's being the intimidator inside. He's done that job pretty well tonight. 55-50. Kansas lead Kentucky's basketball. Tillman spots Williams inside. He's immediately surrounded. Now they play catch with it. Scheidler, the shot he likes so well. 55-52. Kentucky has closed it to 3. We've got 5.5 to go in the second half. Valentine, a quick move on Scheidler. And he pushed off. Darnell Valentine is so upset. As you see Mo Fowler come back, there's Valentine. He wanted to argue with the call. I'll tell you, that is a class young man. He did not argue. He immediately disciplined himself to come to the defensive end of the floor. Valentine knew to keep his mind on business, and he did so. Alexinas gets it to go. It's a one-point ball game, 55-54 Kansas. Scheidler called for the foul on the inbound play.
And almost picked up a technical. I mean, almost. Jerry Menz took a long, long look at him. Scheidler has fouled out, but the tee didn't come.
Emotions running high as Jay Scheidler takes the seat. He scored 8 points tonight, 6 here in the second half, when Kentucky has closed the 7-point Kansas halftime lead down to 1, and you can see he is still boiling. Scheidler, I think, tried to sneak back and pull the old unexpected play on the inbound pass. A lot of times, players will become lackadaisical on that play and just flip it in, and Scheidler tried to pull the surprise move.
Kansas coach Ted Owens says he wouldn't trade Darnell Valentine for any guard in America, and I can certainly see why, Randy.
21 points for Valentine, the sophomore from Wichita, Kansas. Led this ball club in scoring last year. 3 times All-State in high school in Kansas. He had 130 assists last year. And he was in foul trouble against Kentucky last year. He's not tonight. That one won't fall for him. Alexinas on the rebound. A basket would tie it. Approaching the 5-minute mark. 56-54 Kansas. Tillman a little unsure of himself over there. Slater, who came in for Scheidler when Jay Scheidler fouled out. He wants Levon Williams inside. That's Alexinas on the drive. He walks. 4 Kentucky turnovers in the second half. Mokeski is back in for Kansas. That's the big guy coming down to the offensive end of the floor. Darnell Valentine takes the inbound pass from Johnny Crawford. Mo Fowler in there. That's the same Kansas lineup that started the ball game except for one substitution. They've been Iron Men tonight. Valentine is loose on the baseline. The ball went off his foot.
Remember those 2 turnovers, Randy, because one way or another it may be a turning point in the game for one team or the other.
Kentucky coach Joe Hall wants to talk it over. We've got a timeout on the floor. The score. That young lady speaks for 23,000 plus here at Rupp Arena. She's up on her feet waiting to see what Kansas and Kentucky do. The Jayhawks lead by 2, 56-54. How do you like your basketball served up? Rich in tradition and exciting. What we've got here this evening. Kentucky has improved their shooting percentage from the first half. They're 10 out of 22 in the second half at 45%. Kansas, on the other hand, 7 of 16, 43.7%. The Jayhawks are a bit below what they put it up at in the first half.
With 4.5 minutes to go in the game, and Kansas leading by 2, Kentucky had a chance to tie it. Chuck Alexinas walked with the ball. They went right back down to the other end, and Darnell Valentine dribbled it off his foot. Instead of going up by 4, Kansas again is in jeopardy of being tied here.
This young Kentucky team learns a lesson here. You don't get a second chance often. Will they capitalize? Yes. The basket will not count. He traveled again.
Oh, no.
I thought it was a late. Thought the only issue was whether or not the basket counted. Traveling was called. Joe Hall tells Jay Scheidler, who's already fouled out of this ball game, to get back to the bench, or we might get slapped with a technical foul, Hall is saying to Scheidler. Alexinas traveled with the ball, so it stays 56-54. That man was down by 2, Joe Hall. Macy and Clater may try to work the trap out on top here, but they're working with some quick customers like Mo Fowler, Tony guy who has the ball now. That's Fowler again. He's working around Kyle Macy. And Darnell Valentine doing a good job of helping Fowler out. And Fowler just controlling things at this point. 3.5 minutes. Kansas, a 2-point lead. The 5th-ranked team in the country. Both these clubs unbeaten. And in all honesty, the first severe test for both of them. How will they react? We'll know in a little over 3 minutes. Right now, the Jayhawks have the advantage. In important away from the ball for the defensive man like Alexinas and Tillman on the baseline as Macy got in there but kicked it. Like Alexinas and Tillman on the baseline, not to fall asleep away from the ball. That can happen, and someone will backdoor you, but they've done the job so far. Tony Guy working against Levon Williams. Mokeski back to Guy. The big guy, Mokeski, wants nothing to do with this end of the game. He'll just keep Alexinas out of the thick of the traffic. Macy stole it. It will count, of course, the goaltending, even if the ball had popped out. And I'll tell you something, Kyle Macy waited. He waited to see if he could possibly draw the foul. Fowler did not foul him. The basket's good. We're tied up, 56-56. The cool hands of Kyle Macy have come through again. 2:30 in the clock running. You can see it. Mo Fowler a little puzzled. Came close to traveling with it, but he got rid of it to Valentine. Now Kentucky in that 1-3-1. It's tied up. The decision now is not so easy for Kansas. That's the story. 2 minutes, tied up. Mo Fowler with the ball. Macy out on top, trying to check both Valentine and Fowler. He's the point man in the 1-3-1. .144 in the clock running. Ted Owens wants his Jayhawks to back off, have nothing to do with attacking the zone at this point. That's Fowler and Valentine playing catch out on top. Tony Guy and Johnny Crawford are in the deep corners. Paul Mokeski is out at the high post. And now the challenge is going up to the defense to go out and get the ball.
Here comes Joe Hall saying, come on out on the wing. Now they're going to the man-to-man. Clater comes out.
Kansas forced the issue, was successful in doing so. That's Clater on Darnell Valentine. Tony Guy and Levon Williams. Clater trying to knock it away. He's scrambling for it. They'll jump it up. With less than a minute to go. Truman Clater came out, knocked the ball away, and tied up Darnell Valentine. And Valentine was talking to the official, but he was not complaining. The Kentucky Wildcats getting words of instruction from Coach Joe B. Hall. And that ball club hopes they are indeed words of wisdom, because they're going to need some of that. They're tied with Kansas.
The Cats have just literally clawed their way back into this thing, and if this young team hasn't won your heart, you haven't got one. 56-56 with 52 seconds to go.
The Jayhawks break away from Coach Ted Owens. Owens, Basketball Weekly's Coach of the Year last year, National Coach of the Year. He took his team to the Big 8 title in a year that he was supposed to be on the ropes. 2 years prior to that had not been typical Kansas year. But this is a typical Kentucky-Kansas game. Truman Clater and Darnell Valentine, two guards, will be jumping it up at center court. Cowan, Williams, Clater, Macy, Alexinas is your Kentucky lineup. Tony Guy, Darnell Valentine, Mo Fowler, Paul Mokeski, and Johnny Crawford in there for Kansas. Mokeski controls. Tony Guy had a pass to the basket until Freddie Cowan got back. Guy wasn't even thinking about going in, though. That's the man they want to have the ball. Darnell Valentine was in trouble. He got out of it. Don't be surprised if they just clear aside for Darnell Valentine and let him go. There he goes down the lane. Don't be surprised if when the time comes, that's what happens. And the burden of responsibility will rest on that man, number 22, Truman Clater. And now there were 52 seconds on the clock when Truman Clater and Darnell Valentine jumped it up. Kansas has run that down to 19 seconds.
game reminds me a whole lot, Randy, of one right here last year against Mississippi State when Kentucky came from behind and Mississippi State still had a chance to win it in the closing seconds, and Rick Roby took a charging foul. And I'm sure that's one thing that Coach Joe Hall is talking about right now, is taking a charge, trying to get good defensive position, because I think it's rather obvious that Darnell Valentine is going to control this ball and try to draw a foul of his own. But if in going to the hoop they could get a charging foul on Valentine and take it back the other way, Kentucky could win it.
In all probability, Truman Claytor will be the man that will have to be with Darnell Valentine when the moment of truth comes. Then again,
I wouldn't want that job for anything.
I would not either. Then again, Denny, coaches become successful by pulling surprises sometimes. So we won't try to write the script. We'll just let the play unfold in front of you. That is Valentine with the ball.
1-3-1.
Coach Joe Hall deals an ace. We'll see whether Ted Owens thinks he's bluffing. 56. Clock's down to 5. You can see it running. Valentine is the man that takes the shot. No good. Johnny Crawford had it knocked away. A clean block. No foul. It was a clean block knocked away from Johnny Crawford before he could put it back up. And he did have time to get it back up.
So put the coffee pot on the back burner, Mother. We're going to work overtime again. 56-56. We've got an overtime, the first one this season. And both these teams remain today. And Joe Hall, I think, made the correct gamble there. I'm not sure you can stop Darnell Valentine one-on-one when he's as hot as he is tonight. I think the 1-3-1 was the correct thing to do there, and it paid off.
I think there are people in the NBA who couldn't stop Darnell Valentine one-on-one, and it was a good move. Ted Owens has made some good moves in this ball game, too. Both these coaches, as you see Owens with the clipboard. What has he devised for the overtime? We'll soon find out. The same lineup that started the ball game for Ted Owens is out there. It's Levon Williams and Johnny Crawford to jump it up at midcourt. Macy controlled it. Mo Fowler had a shot at it. Macy did a good job of blocking him off from the ball. Oh, so important. Who gets the upper hand in the early going? Crawford deflected that shot.
Kentucky hasn't been ahead since it was 10-8, Randy.
That was a long time ago, but this is a whole new ball game. And Tony Guy's in the wing with Freddie Cowan on him. He'll drive to the hoop. Nice move by Tony Guy, and it's 58-56 Kansas up. 13 points for Tony Guy. That's not the important factor right now. The 58-56 margin is. Alex Enos at the high post. We've gone through a minute of the overtime. Claytor's taken both Kentucky shots here in the overtime session. That one touched the top of the backboard, so Kansas will get the ball. Live into Johnny Crawford. In a lot of trouble on the baseline. He walked it. There were 4 Wildcats ready to pounce on their prey. Their prey was Johnny Crawford. He walked before he could get it up. This is when coaches earn their pay and get gray hairs. That's Macy. He's coming right at you, directing the attack. Not a time for the faint of heart, nor a player that does not want to take the shot if it's there. Kyle Macy and Truman Claytor have been down this road before. They know what the heat is like. Claytor's taken both Kentucky shots here in the overtime, had one blocked and missed the other one. 3:08, 3:06, the clock moving. The Kansas zone moving well with the ball, and they are sitting back, not coming out that far to meet the ball, but when Claytor threatens to penetrate, they do move. Freddie Cowan on the wing. Nice fake by Claytor, got that play going, and Levon Williams is called for the charge. 4th foul on Williams.
That call did take some intestinal fortitude and some courage on the part of the officials, and that time I thought it was the right one, Randy.
It was. Now full court pressure applied by Kentucky. That surprised Kansas for a moment, but Valentine is the guy that took control. You can see we're approaching the 2.5-minute mark of the overtime. And again, the Wildcats find themselves looking up from the bottom. They're 2 points down. Valentine into the lane. McKeskey back out to Fowler to Tony Guy.
Well, we've danced this dance before, too.
Valentine to Crawford. He would not go to the basket. They've got the lead and the ball, and they know what to do with it. Tony Guy this time. That's the kind of shot you got to get off that offense, and Crawford did an excellent job of moving in to take the pass. He moved away from the ball. We've got a timeout on the floor. The score, Kansas had 4 points scored in the overtime. Tony Guy on a driving layup. Johnny Crawford on a slam dunk, and it's 60-56 Kansas over Kentucky.
Kim Stevens and Clarence Tillman checked in for Kentucky during the break. I think the Wildcats have got to get a shot off here, Randy, in less than 15 or 20 seconds. They can't be tearing with it now.
Well, Stevens is the Kentucky Rifles, the nickname he picked up at McCreary County. Clarence Tillman, one of the best shooters in the country in the high school ranks last year. I wouldn't mind having one of those two put it up. We'll see who does go ahead and fire for Kentucky. Clater out on top. Kansas still in the zone. It's worked well for him. 146, 145, the clock moving. This is no time to play catch. But then again, you can't force one. In other words, perfection is what you're looking for in this situation. Knocked away. Fowler thought he should have had the steal.
And they've already used that 20 seconds I was talking about, Randy.
1:34 to go. That's the back of Kyle Macy, which has shouldered the burden time and again for Kentucky. Will he do it again tonight? A minute and a half to find out. 60-56. That is Macy with the shot. Oh, he is cool. 12 points for Macy. It's a 2-point ball game. They double team, but Valentine kicked it away to Guy. Clater's playing with 4, and that's 5. Truman Clater is fouled out. That's the 5th foul. A little over a minute to go in the overtime session.
Dwight Anderson will get the call.
He is getting instructions right now from Coach Still Hall, and Truman Clater gets a hand as he comes to the bench. He had 6 points, all of those in the first half. His job tonight was to guard Darnell Valentine, and that is no easy job. The man at the line is the man we spoke of, Darnell Valentine. 22 points for him, and a 3-point Kansas lead. Make it 4. Down to a minute. Stolen by Darnell Valentine. He's with Dwight Anderson, the only man to beat. Valentine may have sealed it with that one. 64-58, a 6-point Kansas lead. 25 points for Valentine, and those are the 2 biggest he scored tonight. Tillman. Levon Williams on the boards. He can't get it to go. Tillman again. 36 seconds. Kentucky down by 4. Now full court pressure being applied, and Dwight Anderson is called for the foul.
Good time to do it if you're going to do it. Foul him early. 31 seconds still showing.
The problem is the man he fouled is Darnell Valentine. He is not the man Kentucky likes to see at the line. That's the reason. Now, the instructions from the Kansas bench, if you can read lips, you might have known what he said. He said, don't foul at any rate.
Overtime period, he hit the big jumper from the outside and kept Kentucky in this thing. He made the big steal. and the resulting layup, but he really has not played well for the third consecutive game, or shot well at least.
Valentine, who's at the line, made a big steal too and took it in all the way against Dwight Anderson. And he can really be the guy to put the icing on the cake for Kansas here. 27 points for Darnell Valentine. 6 points, they got to bring it down and fire it up. No time to waste. This is Anderson. He got it. 66-62, only 20 seconds to go. Foul on Darnell Valentine. 16 seconds to go. Anderson, the freshman, being congratulated for drawing that. Well, what might have been a simple case of Kansas running it out has become very interesting now. That's Darnell Valentine's fourth foul.
The referee told him to go sit down, and Valentine started to do that. Ted Owens asked him why. Valentine said the referee told me to. Now he's back out on the court.
Dwight Anderson, the freshman from Dayton, Ohio. Dayton Roth High School, has been in some tight moments in high school. This is his first big pressure moment in college basketball. He missed it. Clarence Tillman, another freshman, missed it. That's Dwight Anderson up over everybody with the rebound. And he's fouled. Paul McKeskey of Kansas over to help him up, as is Tony Guy of the Jayhawks. Anderson hit the deck pretty hard. Paul McKeskey fouls out with that one. 10 seconds to go in the overtime. McKeskey, the big man, leaves with 8 points. We see him taking a seat.
Now the question is, if Anderson makes both free throws and cuts it to 2, Randy, do you foul immediately when the ball comes in, or do you give them a chance to come down and set up? Kansas has proved to be very, very difficult to get the ball away from when they get into that freeze defense. There's the 6th man award being announced for Jay Scheidler tonight. So 3 different players have won that so far this season. For Derber, Anderson, who's at the line right now, and Jay Scheidler, the winner tonight, as the outstanding substitute for Kentucky.
It's a trophy he won't treasure unless Kentucky comes back to win it, I'm sure. He's a competitive young man. Anderson, the guy at the line, will have the second chance. He missed the free throws a moment ago. Tillman kept it alive, and Anderson also went up to get it, and he was fouled. He'll have 2 shots this time, not the 1-and-1. Three points for Anderson. It's a 3-point Kansas lead. One thing you got to be sure of if he makes it, they should not foul Darnell Valentine when Kansas has the ball. They'll have some time to think this one over. So Dwight Anderson's free throw, his 4th point of the game, has made it a 2-point margin. 10 seconds, as you can see on the clock. 66-60.
Find out who's the worst Kansas free throw shooter, and you try to foul him in an inobtrusive way. You can't have an intentional foul at this point, but if you can pick out the worst free throw shooter and somehow make a foul that's not intentional on him, you've got a shot at it. (66-64), Kansas on top with 10 seconds to go.
We'd like to tell our stations along the University of Kentucky network at this time that as soon as this one is over, well, we'll be leaving Rupp Arena here. As soon as this one's over, we'll be leaving Rupp Arena here. We have 10 seconds of playing time left to find out just in what state we shall leave this fine facility, whether Kentucky comes away with the win or whether the Jayhawks hold on to win it. There's Macy, a guy Kentucky would like to have at the line if they get another shot at it. Full court pressure. Levon Williams hustles to the other end to be the last line of defense against the easy breakaway. It's stolen away by Anderson. He gets it back into Macy. That's the man they want to shoot, and he hit it. It's tied. 3 seconds to go. Kansas calls timeout. Kansas calls timeout.
Anderson made the play, Randy. They just flat put the defense on him to prevent the inbound pass, and Anderson used his extraordinary quickness to make the steal and the save, and then it was Ice Water Macy again.
The combination of the quickness of Dwight Anderson, the coolness of Kyle Macy, has tied this basketball game of 23,000 plus are in a state of frenzy. Ted Owens, the Kansas coach, is in a state of concentration. At this point, it is his job to determine what way he can get the ball the entire length of the court. Dwight Anderson, I think, at this moment is just literally overcome with emotion. His knees are actually wobbly. Joe Hall is congratulating the young man. Mr. Anderson, I have this to say to you. That is what big-time college basketball is all about.
Now, Randy, that's what makes Dwight Anderson such an appealing young man. The emotion just flows from the guy, and you can't help but like him. You can't help but whether he plays the game of basketball, but off the court, he's just as appealing.
Kentucky, at this point, the strain showing on the face of one of the Jayhawk cheerleaders, it appeared they had it wrapped up. It appeared as if Darnell Valentine had really done a number, both at the free throw line and with a steal and a layup.
No matter what happens from here, win, lose, or draw the rest of this season, this crowd has fallen in love with the 1978-79 Wildcats. A pretty worthy successor, I would say, to the national champions of last year. They just absolutely refuse to give up. And now Kyle Macy is going to the line for a technical foul. Apparently, they were out of timeouts when they called it, Randy.
He got it. Let's clarify the ruling. A referee, an official, has to grant a timeout when requested by a team, no matter if they have exceeded their limit of timeout. But that team calls that timeout at the expense of a technical foul. And unless we are informed otherwise, I assume that is the ruling. Kansas had exceeded their timeout allotment. You see them huddled around Ted Owens. When they call timeout, it must be granted to them, but at the expense of a technical foul. Now Kentucky calls timeout, and I would assume, Denny, that Joe Hall has not exceeded his limit. He knows he won't have to pay the price of a technical.
Oh, Randy, that free throw did not go swish. It danced around and finally went down the drain.
More than 23,000 hearts came up and 23,000 throats at that moment. Kyle Macy, who hit 10 straight free throws in the game against Michigan State in the Mid-East Regional Championship last year, was on the spot again. And again, the result the same. Mr. Macy came through. 15 points on the night for Kyle Macy. The last one, the biggest one. It put Kentucky ahead 67-66. Kansas, of course, no time ran off the clock. Kansas still has 3 seconds to play with.
Just to be sure, we checked with the scorers table, Randy, and that is what happened. Too many timeouts called by Kansas. And, of course, Ted Owens is the players on the court. I'm sure he had told them before that they didn't have any left, but in the heat of the moment, they called an extra timeout that they didn't have available. We were not aware of it because timeouts are not listed on the scoreboard here as they are on the football scoreboards across the country. But they exceeded their limit, and Macy has put Kentucky ahead with 3 seconds to go.
Seconds to go, and the Jayhawks' job is to get the ball the length of the court. The story has 3 seconds left in it, perhaps more, depending on what happens. At this time, I'd like to inform our stations along the UK network, we will be with you until 10 o'clock. We will stay with you until 10 o'clock. Right now, let's focus our attention on the basketball floor. You see the ball being inbounded at midcourt. Kansas has the ball, rather Kentucky the ball at midcourt. Macy into Williams. It's played around. Tillman will hold it until the final second runs off. Clarence Tillman was the man that ended up with the basketball.